It's time to get up with you. Give me a chance. Does the studio look green? Yes, it does. Is that a coincidence? No, it's not. Was yesterday the best day of my life? You be the judge. Graziano is here. Tannenbaum is here. Tedy Bruschi is up with us early this morning. Schefter has got all the insight in the world.
And now the question is, what can they realistically extract from the Jets? Well, the Jets know that the Packers and Jets once made a trade that Mike Tannenbaum on the set was once a part of, which included a conditional fourth-round pick for Brett Favre. So the Jets would think that that's closer to the value that should be paid for a 39-year-old quarterback who's on a year-to-year basis, who, oh, by the way, also has $110 million in guaranteed money due to him over the next 2 years. So if they're taking on that money and they would restructure the contract, then that should lower the compensation, not increase it. So both sides have their claims, and now the question is, where do the two sides end up, and how soon can they get it done? And is there any way, not to make your head blow up, Greeny, that it could fall apart because Green Bay has dug in? All I can tell you is that Green Bay believes it's right, the Jets believe they're right, and now we wait to see how the two sides can find a way to somehow meet in the middle and come up with a simple solution. I think we all could solve it ourselves, but that's where the two sides are right now, far apart.
All right, so that's an excellent explanation, and I'm going to take off my fan hat for just a moment, and I'm going to explain this as best I can, actually do my job here for a change, which is to say that there are three inflection points that are coming up. The first of them, it would seem to me, would be the draft. If you're going to trade, if there's going to be compensation involved that involves this year's picks, then the inflection point becomes the end of April. If that doesn't happen, if God help us, this thing has not been done by the end of April, then the next inflection point is June 1st or 2nd, right? It's whatever day by which the Packers then would all of a sudden be greatly aided financially by holding the trade off until then.
Dead money hit would be $25 million less for them if they waited till after June 1st to trade.
June 1st, so June 2nd, so that becomes the next inflection point. If this thing doesn't happen by the draft, then June 2nd becomes the next point, and then again, God help us, we get all the way to the start of the season. He's owed $58 million if he's on the roster when the season actually begins, the roster of the Packers. So those are the three. If there are, if we're going to use the old expression that, deadlines spur actions, those are the deadlines.
And if we have depth at the quarterback position, that's not the worst thing in the world. Obviously, they want to move on with Jordan Love, and we all expect this to happen. But if I'm the Packers, time is on my side. The inverse is 30 miles down the road, Greeny, is there's a tremendous sense of angst. We want him in the building. We want to get the contract done, get him to pass the physical. Then he could start working with the Garrett Wilsons of the world. So that's why if I'm the Packers, I am going to slow play this because as Graz has said, for us, I'd rather do this in June and spread out that cap charge over 2 years.
There's so much here. We have 20 minutes to do it. We're not going anywhere. No commercial breaks for another 15 minutes. Stay with us here because we get everybody in. Tedy, I've not yet heard from you. You look like you're dying to jump in. Go.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers is no longer a Packer. So even if I'm a player in the locker room, it's like, so he's not here. He's not going to be our quarterback. Go ahead and get everything you possibly can and make him wait. Why help the New York Jets and Aaron Rodgers when he was a headache to us the last couple years? Go ahead. You want to know what the business is now? This is business. We want everything for this guy because he's great.
And Tedy, let me say this. Aaron Rodgers is now on the side of the Jets telling them the same thing. Get as little as you, or give up as little as you can. I want all the resources that you have on this team. So you got Aaron Rodgers telling the Jets, let's limit this. We have the leverage here. I'm going to drive this, right? Like, let's get this done, and I want all the picks that we can get. He wants it limited for his old team. And, Greeny, you mentioned all those inflection points. Again, to that point, I would say there's one more, the start of the Jets offseason program. Now, Aaron Rodgers has not been somebody who's been a regular attendee of the Packers offseason program, but I would think it would be very important for him to be in New Jersey for the start of the Jets offseason program whenever they get underway here in the next few weeks.
And to Schefter's point, if you listen to Aaron Rodgers' words yesterday, guys, he was basically trying to nudge Green Bay on this national platform. Like, hey, they have to get a deal
Do
done.
the right thing.
Yeah, no problem. We'll get you where you want to go with the coach you want. Aaron Rodgers says it to the Packers. The Packers, after the way the last couple of years have gone with him ripping them up and down and throwing a 2-year fit about them drafting Jordan Love, they're like, all right, man, we'll think about it. Sure, we'll do what's right by us.
And then drawing the parallels to the Brett Favre situation, we were sitting there in August, and Brett was going back and forth. Did he want to play? And certainly he wanted to go to Tampa Bay because at the time, John Gruden was the head coach at Tampa Bay. So that situation was similar, but there were some differences. Ironically, they were in love with Aaron Rodgers. They thought it was time for him to play, and they really didn't want Brett back in the building, and they wanted to move on. So there was a sense of, not urgency, but they wanted to get something done sooner or later. They really wanted him in the AFC. And as Adam alluded to, we came up with a number of conditions in the trade papers, which is basically a contract between the two teams, that the more Brett played, the more successful we were. It could actually go to a first-round pick if we had made the Super Bowl, a bill we would have been happy to pay. I think this situation is different because we're sitting here in March, and Green Bay has a lot more time on their side than they did in August.
So,
Will,
go ahead.
I will say this: the conversations I've had with the Jets side, one of their big concerns seems to be, do we want to give up too much for a guy that might only be here a year?
Right.
So if there's compromise ground, it may be a conditional pick that gets better if he plays in 2024.
If he's on the roster
right?
the first day of the following season.
Yeah, so I think there's definitely room to negotiate there.
Guys, we can make this deal, okay? If you're Joe Douglas, if you're Mark Murphy, if you're Brian Gutekunst, just by the end of this show today, I will have this thing worked out for you because I need Rodgers in New Jersey as soon as I can get him there.
I think it is a big assumption that he wants to be there for that because it hasn't been him in the past. But the sooner this happens, I mean, then he can put in that work with Garrett Wilson and those receivers like Schefter's talking about. But the rejuvenation of Aaron Rodgers in terms of what he has to do in the offseason to do this right is probably why the Jets are so just desperate to get this done, because maybe Aaron has expressed to them, yeah, I will get there and let's get this going.
Teddy, I want to ask you another question. It came up in our meeting this morning, and it's a complicated one in the case of Aaron Rodgers because we understand that he has made life difficult in various ways for the front office, the current front office of the Green Bay Packers. But when he says yesterday, I'm the longest tenured Packer in a franchise that has been around since the inception of the league, and I'm one of the greatest players in the history of the franchise, those are correct. Those are right. Those are inarguable statements.
Yeah.
And so one of the questions I have, Teddy, is does an organization owe a player who has done as much for them as he has anything on the way out? I'll recall your buddy Tom Brady and Robert Kraft, whom we all like and admire greatly. He arranged it so that, and I think the words he used were, Brady has earned the right to go out the way he wants to go out. And he made a deal with Brady that he would become a free agent when he did and let him choose how he wanted to do it. You've seen a lot of players. I mean, Terry Bradshaw to this day does not have a good relationship with the Steelers. He won them 4 Super Bowls. Tom Brady is going to have a great relationship with the Patriots going forward. How it ends matters. And Teddy just said that. And look, Mike Tannenbaum, and I say this because I want the whole world to know, Mike Tannenbaum is a sweetheart of a man. And when you guys acquired Brett Favre in that trade, 10 years ago, or whatever it is now, almost 15 years ago, you gave Chad Pennington his release, which you didn't have to do. And he went out, he found a team, he was the comeback player of the year. He beat you the last week of the season to make the playoffs because you did the right thing. Sometimes there's a fine line that has to be walked between doing the right thing and taking care of your own side.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right, Greeny. There is a balancing act here. And to Teddy's point, part of your audience, ironically, it's the current locker room because they want to say, like, hey, how did you treat Aaron Rodgers? And if you don't treat him the right way, how are you going to treat me at that moment of truth? But context is everything. And I think Dan makes a great point. You could look at guys like Stafford, Matt Ryan, Greeny, your point about Tom Brady. So context is everything here. And obviously there is a tremendous amount of deal fatigue and scar tissue. And I think right now the Green Bay Packers are saying, Aaron, you made life difficult for us. Well, guess what? We have all the leverage in the world. We are in zero rush. In fact, for us, to Teddy's point, if we're just putting on that Packer hat, June 2nd is a great day for me to return Joe Douglas's phone call.
That's correct. If nothing else, can't they take me into account as they make these decisions? Stick, do I have time to play the one? Because I found this funny, and I hope everyone else found it funny, and Schefter was brilliant with it yesterday. My favorite moment, of course, of the entire day was when Rodgers said he wants to come play for the Jets. My second favorite moment was this.
Ask Schefter would I text him when he somehow got my number and texted me. I didn't respond to Diana Rossini, I think her name is.
Yes,
Like
Diana.
somehow you got my
Great
number as
work.
well. But like I would say the same thing that I told Shefty. Lose my number. Nice try.
So, Lose My Number is going to be a new feature here on Get Up. From now on, every week, Mike Tannenbaum, who do you want to lose your number this week? That's a new feature on Get Up. I love it. Schefty, because he's an outstanding reporter, confirmed the report. That is the Lose My Number text that he got from Aaron Rodgers. And candidly, it's sweeping the nation. We got T-shirts out there that are being made now saying Lose My Number. So, Schefty, take the floor. Personally, I thought it was hilarious.
Well, here's the deal. Trey Wingo put out there that the deal was done, and it was right before we were going on air. And calling the Packers the Jets, Aaron Rodgers camp, and everybody saying, ask Aaron Rodgers camp, ask the Jets, ask the Packers. Nobody's saying. And I'm like, you know what? I have had Aaron Rodgers' number. I've never used it before. Let me send him a text. So I sent him a text, and I said, everybody's saying it has to come from you. So I'm just asking you, have you informed the Jets that you want to play for them? Thank you and good luck. That was what I sent him. And I got back the response I did.
Look, and what could possibly make more sense than complaining that people have inaccurate information and then telling them to lose your number when they ask you for the information?
That is very true, Greeny. I literally went to the source himself to clear up and to make sure that the information would be accurate, and that was the response.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.